Cess was another important topic in GST 2.2.
As we all know, people have stopped buying cars. The corresponding compensation cess which was charged by the OEM, this cess credit cannot be utilized because you do not have an output cess.
But the refund often should go to that litigation path.
This litigation, I think, will be something which we have to, and credit is as good as tax paid, so I think that does not require much.
Hello and welcome to GST Dialogues. Cess was another important topic in GST 2.2. Earlier we had Cess plus GST. Now that Cess has been done away with. But what happens to the accumulated Cess credit that is lying in the balance of the taxpayers, sir?
So I think this is one of the most talked about questions in the industry, as well as the questions which the media is asking the government to clarify. So interestingly, I was hearing the media deliberation by the CBIC chairman. So where the specific question which was being asked is what happens to the compensation cess which are actually accumulated and lying with the automobile dealers, as a specific question which was being asked, because they have substantial stock of vehicles at their yards, and as we all know, people have stopped buying cars in the last 1 month or so on the anticipation of the rates being reduced. Now the challenge for the dealers is they have a stock of huge number of vehicles. The corresponding compensation cess which was charged by the OEM is lying with them as a credit. A credit cannot be a paper credit. Effectively, that credit has to be utilized. So now the CBIC chairman in his deliberation with the media has given a view that there is going to be no longer a cess levy effective 22nd of September. Thereby, the cess credit cannot be utilized because you do not have an output cess. Plus, the communication further extended to the point that this cess effectively has to be managed by the trade and the manufacturers, either by giving extra discounts now and trying to sell the stock, or you have to plan your pricing by getting a discount from the OEM. So if you look at the history of the indirect tax entire structure which has evolved, when we had the central excise and service tax and VAT getting migrated to GST, we were at the similar crossroads where there was no clarity what happens to the education cess which is getting accumulated in the hands of the taxpayers. So we had lot of litigations, disputes. Initially people took a stand, okay, I will transition to GST. Hopefully that is being allowed, because the very purpose of GST was all taxes get subsumed. But unfortunately there were lot of litigations, and finally the provision also got amended with a retrospective effect, specifically excluding the cess component for migration or transition to GST. That being the case, the assessees were left in the middle of the road not knowing what to do. So fortunately, some assessees who were little more thoughtful about the provisions and the way forward had sought refund for this education cess. Now even there we had a litigation where the department again said the SENVAT credit rules does not have a specific provision or a rule which will enable such a refund. So this matter travelled till the tribunal. Fortunately, the tribunal actually looked at the very essence of a credit. Plus they also made an interesting observation that though the law has been transitioned, the entire law has moved to GST, the service tax central excise, there was no provision in the law which has effectively lapsed the amount of credit which has accrued in the hands of the taxpayer. See, we know there are enough decisions by the Supreme Court that a tax paid on your purchases is a rightful credit which you have availed, and something which is rightfully availed becomes your vested right. And credit is as good as tax paid. So I think that does not require much elaboration. So what the tribunal across various courts, we have cases in Karnataka, Delhi, Gujarat, n number of decisions are there by the tribunal. To name a few, I think Slumberger is there, Toyota Kirloskar is there. So there what the courts have said is this credit which was rightly availed, and there is no provision in the law which is lapsing that kind of a cess credit, was allowed as a cash refund to the taxpayers. Now if I look at the current situation, though the government does not want to admit that refund is available to the taxpayer on account of this compensation cess, but they have admitted a fact, knowingly or unknowingly, even in their FAQ document which was issued post the 56th council meeting, I think it was question number 37 or 38, maybe that can be referred, where they have specifically mentioned on a question, why is there a special slab of 40%? So to that question, the answer in the FAQ is that the special rate of 40% is a case where the compensation cess rate has got subsumed or merged along with the GST rate, and thereby the effective rate has become 40. So many of the products which are at 40, goods which are at 40, earlier had a GST rate of 28 and had a cess rate varying from 1% to 22%. So it was having a range of say 29 to 30% to 50%. So they have taken an average of 40%. That being the case, when they themselves admit that it is a combination of GST and the compensation cess together becoming a combined rate of 40, it is a natural expectation of the industry that this compensation cess, number one, either should be allowed as a utilization of credit for my GST liability, or number two, give it as a refund.
But the refund often should go to that litigation path.
So this litigation, I think, will be something which we have to manage. It has been a case where even this education cess credit, people who are skeptical did not want to go for it, but people who felt it's a right, I should not be denied something which I rightfully earned. I think those people will take this path, and especially this compensation cess could be a much higher quantum. Certainly I think it is worth fighting the battle, and ultimately I hope the logic and the very purpose of this cess benefit would prevail.